Good morning, my name is Josh Wallace. This is my IL 632 presentation on a research project from Jacksonville State University. Introduction part. Etowah County School Systems has 22 schools in the system, with 6 being high schools. 6 of those high schools, 4 of them are 7 through 12. 2 of them are 7 through 12, 4 of them are 9 through 12. What we're going to be looking at Sardis High School with grades 9 through 12 is it has the highest percentage of free and reduced lunches. It also has a large percentage of office discipline referrals and limited or low parental involvement. And this research was involving those 3 things: how office referrals are affected by parental involvement and low socioeconomic status. The problems that we found are the correlations. There's correlations between low socioeconomic status and office discipline referrals. There's a connection between students that receive free and reduced lunch and office referrals, and also a lack of parental involvement and office referrals are connected. The connection of all these is a large percentage of the students that have office discipline referrals fall under the category of low SES, and they receive free and reduced lunch, which is connected, and very limited parental involvement. When we examine the problem statement, in 2017 and 18, students that receive free and reduced lunch, 21% of the students receive free and reduced lunch. Students with discipline referrals receiving reduced lunch was only 1.8%. Out of all the discipline referrals in the school, 41% was the discipline referrals. So right here, 23% of those discipline referrals came from students that received free and reduced lunch in 2017 and 18. In 2018 and 19, there was a total of almost 20% of students that affected 29% of the entire student population that received discipline referrals. So 20% out of the 29% that had the office referral was from low socioeconomic status. In 2019 and 2020, the beginning of 2020, there was a total of almost 18% of students that were involved in office discipline referrals that received free and reduced lunch, out of a total of 25%. The subjects of Sardis High School. Sardis High School is grades 9 through 12. We researched 2016 through the beginning of 2020. The sample size was 764 students, and the age range was from 14 to 19 years of age. All ethnic groups and all genders were examined during our research. The data collection. Quantitative data was collected from iNow, Scantron Analytics, and Mosaic. Mosaic is our lunch system that is a federal government, also known as MOS. Scantron Analytics gives you all data in one compiled form, and iNow is information now where you can gather information about lunches, discipline referrals, and so forth. The qualitative data was parental involvement from parent meetings, Title I meetings, and also from personal observations, which I was the assistant principal during this time up until this year at Sardis High School. From iNow, we pulled the SIRS report, which was the discipline referrals. From Scantron Analytics, we used it to determine the low socioeconomic status, ethnic groups, age, and gender of the students. And Mosaic, or MOS, we received or got the free and reduced information from that. The design of our research. The correlative design relationships between low socioeconomic status and minimal parental involvement, with a connection with the number of discipline referrals. What we used for comparison, students receiving free and reduced lunch and students that paid independently. We looked at the number of students that paid independently for their lunch and the students that received free or reduced, and took the percentage of discipline referrals. And we compared them to the number of office referrals per each year. The procedure section. The differences in the subjects. All students are different. We tried to find some differences in the subjects of the students and some similarities. The levels of poverty, the socioeconomic status, and the parental support was all different from each student, which deals with the home environment. The home environment, really couldn't go into the home to see exactly, but with making connections between the poverty levels and socioeconomic status, we could see what home environment, and also the ethnic group and gender of each student would be different. The similarities, the subjects all attended Sardis High School between grades 9 through 12. They were taught by the same teachers in many of the same subjects with the same administration. The timeline for this research. In January, we tried to identify the problems and select all the subjects. In January and February, we collected the data and reviewed the records of all the subjects that we tested or we looked at. January, February, and March, we reviewed literature. We pulled literature about low poverty, low SES. We done book reviews to see what connections or what absolute, what findings we could find to help manage this problem. In April, May, and June, we collected demographic data. In May and June, we started to tabulate. We started to collect this. We collected this data, and we started to find percentages to see how many students actually fall into each category. June and July, we analyzed and tried to interpret the data. July and August, we prepared the reports. And in September, we made a presentation. This shows you the schedule of activities dealing with the stuff that we done through January and February. It's just a table of actually what months we done what. We identified problems and collected data and reviewed student records in January. It's also selected subjects and reviewed literature. That was all done in January in different cases. And we collected data and reviewed student records in January and February. We reviewed literature for 3 months. That's probably not long enough to review all the literature due to there's tons of literature about socioeconomic status, tons of literature about conduct problems, which deals with office referrals. In April, May, and June, we collected demographic data. We started to tabulate the data in May and June, analyze and interpret data in June and July, and then we would prepare the report in August, in July and August. Okay, the methods that we use for data analysis. The population is a small sample of the larger group. We took the students that just received free and reduced lunch. We did compare them to the larger group, but we tried to make a smaller group. The characteristics of the population: free and reduced lunch, minimal parental involvement, and number of office referrals they had over these past years. And sometimes the office referrals would correlate with the same student being in trouble over a number of times over the years. Descriptive statistics, we tried to streamline, organize, and condense information from Mosaic, MOS, iNow, and Scantron Analytics. The importance of anticipated findings. The purpose of this research was to find effects of low socioeconomic status and parental involvement. Also to examine how the effects are correlated with office referrals. That was our whole purpose in designing this research. The Etowah County school systems do things to try to correlate and help this. Professional development for teachers on low socioeconomic students. The Etowah County school systems tries to meet academic and social-emotional needs of all the student population. Also, we are provided adequate help from federal government programs, examples from free and reduced lunch forms. The issue with this is a lot of our parents that are low socioeconomic status do not have internet. Now all the lunch forms from the federal government are completed online. So Sardis High School also opened up their library and computer labs to allow parents to come in to fill out these forms to make sure students were being adequately addressed in all these federal government programs. Okay, the major question is why so many students that receive free and reduced lunch and low parental involvement make up a large percentage of the discipline referrals at Sardis High School. 75% of the office referrals come from students that receive free and reduced lunch, which deals with low socioeconomic status. The majority of these students have no parental involvement in the school unless it's a negative involvement. And what I mean by negative involvement, They would only have involvement in the school if an administrator or teacher had to call them and they had to come up here. They wasn't involved in daily activities. They didn't attend meetings. They didn't come to PTO meetings. So it was a negative involvement. So one major thing was try to create more of a positive environment for these parents. Data also suggests that the number of discipline referrals reduced over the past 3 years that the information we looked at. Why did it reduce? Professional development seemed to be a major factor in the reduction, and using proactive discipline. Trying to find these students that are discipline problems, find out what they need, find their socioeconomic status, and to do something about it before they become a discipline problem. And that starts in the younger grades as well as travels through high school. Etowah County also hired social workers for each school. Actually, there was about 5 social workers that divide the school so they could be in to help with the social-emotional status of these students and to try to find and solve these problems. And also mental health therapists were hired in the school system to try to reduce this issue. Thank you very much.